Is Unreal really not suitable for open world games? What did Daniel Vavra actually say about this? Let's dive into that. Hello everyone, my name is Grzegorz Wątroba, for you English speakers, Greg, and this is my channel Okiem Deva, which translates to, let's say, the dev's eye. If you want to support its development, I invite you to subscribe, share, join Patronite or Discord. You'll find all of those links in the description. I announced this right away. I do not intend to defend or offend any of the sites here. Neither Warhorse, nor CD Projekt Red, nor Epic, nor Crytek. I have no interest in speaking well or badly about any of these companies. I base my analysis on publicly available data you can find in the description. And I form my own opinions based on my experience in game development, counting now over 14 years, and working with various companies and various internal engines, Unity, Unreal, CryEngine in different versions. So all of this is based on my various experiences in game development. You can check my LinkedIn profile as well as find my lectures in different game developer conferences where I focus mostly on optimization, production and leadership as to confirm my experiences. The success of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is undeniable. In 2 weeks after release, the game sold 2 million copies. Game ratings on various portals range from, let's say, between 80-85% upwards. So indeed, it's an amazing open world adventure created by a team of experienced developers from Warhorse Studios under Daniel Vavra's leadership. Looking at the creators list together with acting crew, we have around 700 people working on this project. And the game itself took slightly over 5 years to make, which with production costs of around $40 million, it seems like very reasonable budget, mainly because cost of developers in Czech Republic, as in mid Central Eastern Europe, is relatively low. It's quite the same or similar to Poland's. And the team knew what they were doing while creating the second part of this, in my opinion, wonderful, excellent RPG experience. It certainly has its flaws. Performance drops, animation bugs, average level of character and face details. Still, the creators focused on what's most important for the target audience and achieved success. However, people who feed on hate and do not have an ounce of competence are starting or already started another little war. Still, it's going to wear down soon, hopefully, but I think it should be explained since it's rolling over for last few years regarding Unreal Engine technology and so on. So let me explain. Almost a year ago in the Fantastyczki podcast, Dan Vavra talked about his life, career and success of the first Kingdom Come Deliverance. And in the context of the game itself, when asked why he chose CryEngine, he said because no other engine could handle this, meaning open world game. Unreal Engine couldn't, and it can't handle it even now. Well, let's focus on the first words and why and when they were spoken. The recording took place before the announcement of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is deliberately emboldened in the description of the original podcast link. And the conversation was about the first game from 2018, whose initial plans started in 2009, with proper development beginning in 2011. The studio indeed chose one of the best possible engines at that time, as Unreal Engine was in version 3, and similar to early iterations of the fourth version, it could surprise with great graphics and performance in games like Gears of War, but there were mainly quite closed and corridor-based games. Therefore, I'm not surprised by the choice of such tools, since Warhorse wanted to deliver a large open world, so it's perfectly natural to choose CryEngine over Unreal Engine at that time. However, regarding the next words, that the engine can't handle the open world at that moment, almost a year ago, here I do not entirely agree. He continues by saying that he talked with many developers trying to create open world games on Unreal, including the creators of The Witcher, CD Projekt Red, praising that they had a good engine, and indeed that was true. A Red engine is a piece of solid technology, but like any other large engine, it requires a very solid team of programmers and tool creators to maintain the engine, update it, and add new functionalities. Going further, Vavra, referring to the conversation, mentioned that the creators had particular game elements over a year ago in the context of the next Witcher, but an open world? Not yet. The question is, what open world means here? Data streaming, NPC logic, seamless transitions between locations, all these things are already in Unreal, so the creators must simply not have implemented them yet. He explains further that Unreal is suitable for closed locations, and indeed, up to version 4 inclusive, let's say, the engine was best suited for this kind of games. But as with any other tool, what matters is whether the team can use it and how well it works with it. So to show a, let's say, counterexample for a completely different perspective, the Unity engine is mainly used for indies and mobile games. Yet even on it, an open world MMORPG Gloria Victis was created. While it had many problems, of course, it doesn't mean it can't be done. Even though the Unity engine at that time, and even now, the time at the time of the game production was absolutely not suitable for this kind of games, still it could have been done, and it can be done today. Then Vavra refers to terrain covered systems or foliage, meaning trees, grass, generally vegetation, which is an eternal challenge for creators due to many elements of fine geometry, and moreover preferably interactive in some sense. Vavra himself admitted that they had worked on their version of foliage for 2 years, while an Unreal asset pack for $1,000 does the same thing in photorealistic form. The issue is that such systems are usually not used because they are completely inefficient. They look nice, but they are inefficient, which is the Warhorse chief himself stated further, saying that having such grass requires an $8,000 computer for the game to run well. And besides, it doesn't work with Nanite. Again, of course, Vavra will defend his solution and reduce this whole matter to absurdity. Unreal has its own foliage system, which recently works with Nanite, still not in full version, and I won't point out the lack of technical knowledge to a person who focuses mainly on game narrative. It's just not his area of expertise here. Still, it is possible to have a nice foliage in Unreal which works well. Still, it's not in the way that Vavra described. No additional asset pack is needed here. Moreover, at the end of the statement, he admitted that CryEngine is more demanding engine than Unreal, but none of the pseudo-journalists, self-proclaimed ludologists, and other people of questionable knowledge and reliability bothered to mention this. At the end, when asked about what games run on CryEngine, he could name 3. Kingdom Come Deliverance, Hunt, Showdown, and Star Citizen, which is already on thoroughly overhauled version of CryEngine, Star Engine, but still provides many elements from the third version of the original one. And despite the fact that we already have version 5 of the engine, in the end, Vavra rightfully praised Star Citizen's technological solutions. It is really something. It is really awesome. I have to also mention Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 made on a CryEngine, which looks great as well. What is more, Dan Vavra already spoke up in regard to that podcast and how his words have been twisted, which shows his resolve and culture in that manner. So it's really worth praising here that he himself tried to also resolve some tensions regarding his own words. Let's focus now on CryEngine, since players suddenly started praising it so much, despite my impression that they had forgotten about it for some time. The latest CryEngine is available for free, so dear admirers, you can freely download the engine and plow through games made in Unreal with your productions. The problem is that just CryEngine, even in the latest version, is mildly speaking clunky to handle. Of course, you'll create a piece of beautiful terrain. If you have an army of artists or connect speedtree, you'll have beautiful foliage, but essentially you won't do anything here without a programmer. We do have here in CryEngine a very good AI editor, visual scripting editor, but everything must be tied together by coders, and despite many well-done updates, the learning curve of this engine is really steep. The engine in capable hands can really impress, but it needs people with high expertise to supplement missing tools. The documentation doesn't help either, although it finally gained some proper form. For years it was terrible, and figuring out the engine was borderline miraculous. Thus, the tool is very unfriendly for beginners and requires time to produce high quality games. Games that were made on CryEngine that somehow led the way were the first Far Cry, obviously the Crysis series, Prey by Arcane, Evolve, Wolcen, and the beautiful tech demo Rise Son of Rome, also Hunt Showdown. Which of these games had an open world, so to speak? Essentially Far Cry Sniper, I mentioned before, and Crysis, with the latter historically having inhuman hardware requirements, causing jokes that it burns computers. Of course, we also have Star Citizen, but with the enormous changes in the engine, I'm not sure if it still qualifies as CryEngine. These games, especially Crysis, can be denied the fact that they still look great, and at the time of release absolutely plowed through the entire competition, so we have to have some kudos give some kudos for that. CryEngine has been on the market for years, yet looking at recent market research regarding the proportions of engine usage in games, 32% belongs to Unity, 32% belongs to Unreal, and 0.2% to CryEngine. Additionally, 0.1 to O3DE, which is the new iteration of Amazon's Lumberyard engine, which is based on CryEngine of all things. Really, if this engine was so good and so good to work with, these numbers would look quite different. Moreover, the engine itself is an unfavorable option for developers, so to speak, business-wise. Crytek demands 5% of game revenue, waiving only the initial $5,000 of revenue, $5,000 of revenue, right? Unreal Engine also wants 5%, but only from amounts above $1 million threshold, which means that most indie and AA developers, especially when their game does not succeed very well or it's small in scale don't have to pay absolutely nothing for quite complete and professional tool. Thus, Crytek itself is in trouble. Not only they are unable to deliver a new Crysis on their own engine, but recently they had to stop that game development and lay off 15% of their team, which shows that currently, instead of vigorously developing, the company is barely staying afloat. Knowing all that, why did Warhorse decide on CryEngine? As I said earlier, when they were starting, it was the only sensible choice, and the team had worked with this tool for years, so they got used to it and wrote possibly many of their own elements of the engine. So in Vavra's position, I wouldn't have done it differently, because it's better to operate on a known tool and focus on the game content than to experiment with technology and not deliver. So let's have a look at CryEngine's competitors. So looking briefly at Unity, we have like obvious reasons for its popularity. Ease of implementation, light build size, important for mobile and VR, very high and easy multi-platform capabilities, a vast array of tools for 2D games and 2.5D games, which dominate Indian mobile titles, so it's like perfect for those kind of games. But looking more in detail into the Unreal though, is it really not suitable for open worlds? For a long time, yes, that was true. Unreal shows its claws in more closed locations, where we can focus on scene detail, where we have several dozen NPCs tops, and even that was only manageable by most experienced developers. For years, games that worked best on Unreal were the ones where we have a series of segments that we can linearly guide and thus control and anticipate data flow to minimize problems related to loading or level of detail pop-in. So like corridor games basically. However, games have evolved over the years, and the demand for larger scale and freedom is growing despite our feelings of saturation of, well, pumped up volume titles that don't have an ounce of essence in them. Still, we need scale, and Unreal was unfit for that for a quite long time. Remember also that an open world doesn't mean necessarily that we have to have like a huge map right away. It must be characterized by freedom of interaction and movement, and preferably lack of loading screens. Thus, it must have a wide range of activities in the world, exploration, and efficient data streaming. For a long time, engines produced inside large studios dominated this area. So Ubisoft, EA, Insomniac, Naughty Dog, while there was a lack of appropriate tools to improve this process on Unreal. This doesn't mean we didn't have games with open, or at least to some extent, open world on Unreal Engine 4, for example. Hogwarts Legacy was created on the 4th version of the engine, and basically it can be characterized like an open world. Then hopping up to the 5th version, Nightingale, Laws of the Fallen, Avowed, Second Stalker, or Black Myth Wukong are also games qualifying with these frameworks, running on, like I said, edition 5. However, all of them had really significant technical flaws. The engine itself, since the beginning of the 5th iteration, has been working on new functionalities in terms of open world, foliage system, terrain, data management, procedural, world production, streaming, etc. Additionally, Nanite, Lumen, Megalites, everything that's needed for large-scale worlds. On top of that, data-oriented system, namely Mass Entity, and connected new animation systems, gameplay ability systems, or network layer, everything is slowly being pushed into handling large scale. But why then do we have such problems with new games? Because largely the functionalities are new and unfinished. Developers need to learn how to work with new tools, and in the case of games that have been coming out so far, they started being produced before the system even existed, so or were at all refined. Either they weren't used at all then, or weren't used to their full potential, because some feature could have popped up during the game's development, but it was like too late to remake some part of the game to adapt to a new toy, new tool, a new functionality in the engine. So yeah, the currently produced games are more likely to have those features. Often creators started with early version of the engine and modified them for their needs, making updates to new versions after several years of production a neck-breaking and risky task. Hence, creators used non-optimal technologies. To take the first example, Nanite in Unreal has been functioning for a long time, but Foliage is still marked as beta version, and most likely only the new Witcher and perhaps Blood of Dawnwalker will have a chance to show this element in full glory. Regarding map size, the base size in the engine was once 64 square kilometers. Now, however, using large world coordinates, the maximum world size edge, so the theoretical maximal size, is 88 million kilometers. This is stretched though, because in practice the world needs to be divided into components and clusters, but still even Epic's engineers themselves said that like 64 by 64 kilometer maps, so 4096 square kilometers, are achievable. They can be even bigger, albeit unwieldy to work with. Of course, this assumes using the word partition system, which cuts the word into smaller pieces and manages map data steering, and we can always write our own system if we like, which has been done like for years now. So yeah, the benefits of the engine with open code. For comparison, the Witcher 3's map is about 142 square kilometers, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 map is about 80 square kilometers. So yeah, we can scale it up, baby. Even ignoring the new toys, Unreal has a massive collection of existing and refined systems that creators don't use because they don't know about them or don't have an idea how to use them, or they do not have any time to experiment on them because the publishers are pushing them to pop out the game as soon as possible. The previously mentioned entity component system or significance manager are systems thanks to which the huge scale of the game world in terms of the word logic handling shouldn't pose any problem. The already legendary stutters are also a topic that is largely solvable through pipeline state object cache, animation budget management, world elements, tick rate stabilization, asynchronous data loading, soft references, and so on and so on. These aren't particularly complicated systems either, but they require work, time, knowledge, planning, and additionally are poorly documented in some ways, and most can be learned about only through, wait for it, code comments. So yeah, you have to dig into the weird headers and weird comments there. Many problems visible in games on Unreal can be avoided even today with older engine versions, if creators didn't make almost schoolboy errors in terms of code architecture design, data management, and many other fundamental aspects. Hence, despite having tons of tutorials from Epic itself, many creators showing ways to optimize, including myself, by presenting my lectures at industry conferences, I still find fundamental errors in game construction. Therefore, in my opinion, the problem isn't the engine itself, but with the people who use it. Not every time, not in every case, of course, but there's something about the education of developers there, definitely. Games with open world are also being created by the newest versions of the engine. So The Witcher 4 and the remake of the first one, MMOs like Chrono Odyssey or Arcade Chronicles, aforementioned Blood of Dawnwalker. In my opinion, they will show all or most of the fireworks that Unreal Engine is capable of offering. To summarize, discussions on this topic on the internet based on the statements taken out of context, bloated additionally by a post from the Fuck Epic thread on Reddit suggesting that Witcher 4 is development hell based on the Daniel's Vavra statement, which is completely false. It shows how low the level of knowledge is among people on this topic. That's for one. Two, it also shows how easy it is to manipulate people by steering their emotions or confirming their beliefs, even if they are wrong. I'm not surprised by the set of statements from internet grifters who have zero knowledge about game creation and or technicalities. The Kruger-Dunning syndrome, well, hits hard, and we're 21st century, so everyone has the right to be stupid as much as they want. However, I'm surprised by the fact that journalists running gaming and technology portals repeat this misinformation, basically, like parrots, completely discrediting themselves and fishing for clicks. I'm additionally amused by the fact that on the one hand, gamers accuse reviewers of bias in reviews or, well, lack of reliability, and these same gamers then speak on topics they completely don't understand without any due diligence or checking out like the source materials. So hypocrisy much, right? So my dear ones, in all this commotion, what is important is not the game engine itself, but rather matching specific technology and tools to our needs. What is more, we also need appropriate people who are able to use or supplement those tools. Both CryEngine and Unreal can be thoroughly overhauled by writing our own systems, but we can also use the ready ones if it only depends on the development team whether they will use them properly or not. I've been working on optimizing games for years, and in most cases errors related to this are not a matter of problems with the tool, but with lack of knowledge how to properly use it. Of course, not in every case. Each program has its flaws, but with competent people, that problem can be tackled as well. So, in my opinion, CD Projekt Red or Rebel Wolves have such capable teams that just like Warhorse in the case of CryEngine, Reds in the case of Unreal, will tame this engine and show that they are a top tier people. Therefore, exactly as with games, if you are going to criticize them, play them first, because, well, critic of Witcher 4 before it even has been shipped in any form, well, not very smart. If you are going to criticize development tools, where familiarize yourself with them. You can download them for free and check for yourself how to work with them and how easy it is to create anything on them. Yeah, really easy. I encourage forming your own opinion, not repeating information after, well, someone who has no knowledge on the given topic. Well, that's everything in this material. I invite you to likes, comments, subs, joining Discord, Patronite, or any other form of support like these wonderful people you see now on the screen. You'll find links in the description. This way you'll also appreciate the work of Iza and Łukasz, who beautify my recordings and edit my videos. Thanks a lot for listening, and see you in the next videos on the Dev's Eye.